Yeah, I went from the pandemic starting and me thinking wrestling was dead and that I'd never wrestle again to in the same year debuting for Ring of Honor, debuting for New Japan, getting to wrestle for AEW. It's definitely in the back of my head. Like, it's a lot really quickly, and I don't want to be one of the guys that fizzles out, because now I'm at the point where I could be the guy that fizzles out, or I could take the ball and run with it. We are at the EWA Wrestling Academy, the Pain Factory, kind enough to let us come in and train a little bit on a Friday night. Training's like the only way that you can get better, and it kind of baffles me. There's something that we talk about in wrestling where it's like the only sport where people don't practice.
You okay? Yeah.
People, they train, they get good, and then like they stop at some point. Like they finish their training program and they're like, all right, I'm on shows now, I go wrestle.
Start chanting, take it off.
But you have to try things out. You have to figure out what works for you. And some things, it's better to, figure that out in front of a live crowd, but a lot of times it's better to just figure that out with yourself where you can get those reps in, get the practice in, figure out what you got to do. People don't see the traveling, they don't see the training. People think that what we do kind of starts and ends in the 10 minutes we're in the ring. If you don't put in that preparation, that 10 minutes is not going to be good. Like you can't get better just doing something once a week. You can't get better doing something, twice a week. You have to dedicate yourself, dedicate your time to it, and this is where you do it. That's lost on a lot of young wrestlers, it's lost on a lot of older wrestlers too, but training is where you get better.
I didn't go to your class. You always have ready rolls.
So I did a variety of different things. I was a swimmer from the time I was like in elementary school all the way through high school, even a little bit on the club level in college. And then I also amateur wrestled, and that was all just in the hopes of becoming a pro wrestler one day. But I also played baseball. I really enjoyed like the team sport aspect. Kind of getting that discipline, those fundamentals of you have to practice, you have to focus on whatever that craft is, whatever that skill is. That's always how I looked at wrestling. So when I was 16, I started at this local school that is no longer in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It was called the AIWF Academy. They're like in a big sports complex. So my baseball team practiced like 2 bays down from where the ring was set up. So like after baseball practice, or I also had a key to the batting cages, so sometimes I'd come in like weird hours of the night, and then I would sneak into the wrestling ring when they weren't training, and I would just like run around. Sorry, AC, I don't know if I ever told you that. But so I trained there for about 2 years, and then I moved to Philadelphia for both college, and then also I wanted to train with Drew Gulak. Drew was one of the people that I always sort of appreciated his style and how he could kind of do anything. To me, he was like that Swiss Army knife as a trainer. Like, he just knew everything. Drew is trained in like catch-as-catch-can wrestling. He's learned lucha libre. He's trained very extensively in that, trained in just classic American pro wrestling. So being able to go with Drew, and then it was also just a great time in his career where he could take me on the road, he could bring me places, he could get me opening matches when he was in main events, and it really worked out well, I think, for both of us.
For the fans watching, you may not know Wheeler YUTA yet, but the Ring of Honor wrestlers do. He's a man who's defeated Matt Riddle, MJF, Chucky T, and has a victory outside of Ring of Honor against Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah, I went from the pandemic starting and me thinking wrestling was dead and that I'd never wrestle again to in the same year debuting for Ring of Honor, debuting for New Japan, getting to wrestle for AEW. Of course, I've been to Japan before with Michinoku Pro. I got to go to Germany with WXW, so it's really been a learning experience. But I do get worried sometimes that like it's a lot of stuff happening all at one time. Like sometimes I'm like, maybe this should be a little bit more spread out. Like I don't want to be the guy who gets too much too quick, and I think I'm very conscious of that. So I need to make sure that I keep improving, keep getting better, don't get complacent, because that's how these opportunities stop coming about. Wrestling is so many different things. Like if you were to tell an actor or an actress, like, all right, so you have to drive 8 hours to a town you've never been in, you have to meet an actor you've never met before, you may have never worked with, write something that goes 10 minutes, write like a 10-minute long play, don't rehearse it and then go do it. I think that's such a unique skill set that you need to have.
Flustered, really?
Flustered, yeah. I don't know, whenever I wrestle people that have been doing it for much longer, they're much better, I second guess a lot of things. Yeah. Once we get out there, it'll be okay, but I always feel a little pressure, especially for these ones. So this is a match I wanted for a long time, so I just wanted to go good, you know?
You got it.
Alex Shelley has influenced the independent wrestling scene and just wrestling in general in ways that I don't know if he realizes. I hope he does, but I know that the wrestling scene itself doesn't realize how influenced they are. Like that cool transition you came up with, I'm sure Alex Shelley did like 10 years ago. That cool reversal, that cool submission, he did that 20 years ago. Like, he has such a distinct imprint, such an impact on the style and how people wrestle today. And I think that being able to step in with one of the innovators, one of the OGs, who in my opinion didn't get the praise he deserved, and now he's better than ever, he's getting it now, and he's getting a chance to show the young generation like how he learned, how he came up. And I think this is a really important match because it's tough to say that you're the best wrestler on the independents, which is what I'm hoping to say with the Independent Wrestling Championship. It's tough to say that without beating Alex Shelley. So we'll see if I can put my money where my mouth is.
I'm going to ask all of you an honest question. The wrestlers, fans, management, how many of you became what you wanted to be when you were a child? How many of you were able to realize your dreams? You don't have to answer. You just think about that for a second. Now you think about those life choices and why they led you to where you're at, whether you realize those dreams or not. I don't give a shit. What I care about is pro wrestling. And what I care about most is independent pro wrestling. I'd be willing to bet my bottom dollar, I'd be willing to bet the farm that most of you under this roof are in debt. I'd be willing to bet that most of you have to do something you don't really want to do to make ends meet. Well, guess what? Me too. They always taught us when we were starting out pro wrestling that you create this illusion that you're a superstar, that you're larger than life. Motherfuckers, I ain't larger than life. I am life. You can cheer if you want. You can boo if you want. But the fact of the matter is, the reason guys like him are signing contracts on big television networks is because I paved the goddamn road. So I'll tell you what, I've been offered those contracts, I've turned them down. And there's a number of reasons why, but most importantly, it's because this is the future of pro wrestling. And there's more like them. And if I can't hang with them, if their iron doesn't sharpen mine, then I need to get the hell out of pro wrestling. So this belt here means more to me than any of your other championships. And these guys on these big networks with their six-figure contracts, they want to play pro wrestler. They want to find out what it's like to really grind. Here it's Darwinistic. It's dog eat dog. Talents like him are much, much more than you realize. The sacrifices they make to do this, to get where they're going. Oh man, words can't speak to that end, but I can keep the gate. So, I'm your new IWTV champion. Any one of you, independents, big companies, Japan, Mexico, I don't give a shit. You come and you step to this. When you step to the king, you best not miss. As for you, I just want to say one thing on behalf of myself and on behalf of them. Thank you.
How was it?
Everything I hoped, except for a win. Yeah, they tell you not to meet your heroes, but this was one I'm glad I met, glad I mixed it up with. It felt like I was in there with the guy that I want to be. So if in 5-10 years I can look back at this kind of match and be doing it for someone else, then I think I'll be happy with where I ended up.
That's it.
Close the chapter on independent wrestling champion Wheeler YUTA for now.